So this video is just to kind of demonstrate some stuff that Data Jedi does based on this post about modularity and Bubble. I think this came out after seeing some of my videos, but the question in terms of modularity, what if you drop all your workflows into a reusable group or push in the back-end workflows? Would it be smart? So back-end workflows, if you just focus on modularity, yeah, that might be smart, because when it comes to mobile and web apps, apparently they're sharing a back-end. They're definitely sharing a database, and so therefore definitely sharing an API. But in terms of like just doing it for the sake of modularity, it should be fine. Now, it did get down towards the end here where it was that, you know, now the main concern is workload usage. So I suppose not modularity, but maybe workload usage. I don't know. But in terms of workload usage, is pushing everything into the back end good? No, because yes, it's expensive. Now, Data Jedi can help with that in a very simple manner, where we do have things in there as actions that are database triggers. That's not the point of this video, but they do get you to trigger a back-end workflow without the additional cost of scheduling it, which is always unnecessary when you schedule for a current date and time. But again, that's a separate video, separate sort of feature and function. This is just to talk about that modularity of being able to kind of like create data, edit data, delete data, all from one area for modularity. And at the same rate, being able to get rid of some of what might be perceived costs. So inside of this app that's a demonstration of Data Jedi, the plugin Data Jedi is in there. It needs to be in there. You can see there are some different actions, elements, and events in there, all of which are helpful for this. There is this reusable element called Data Center. The reusable element has a Data Jedi element on it. Now, in terms of the use of Data Jedi, this plugin is not used just to save workload units. That is just like a very simplistic idea of what it does. That is the way in which I came to create it, but that's not at all the only benefit. There are enormous value-add benefits to using this plugin. So one, getting into the mindset of this is more or less like a hybrid approach. It doesn't change everything that you know about Bubble or data or anything else. It just makes doors that were previously closed by Bubble opened. So here, we've got the Data Jedi plugin. You need a name for them. So in this example, I'm just using an option set that I call DJ names. I've got two of them, data center and return values. These are important for the purposes of making sure that your Data Jedi names are unique, because they must be in order to make the global capability of communication possible to work without problems. Then you need to set it as a value data type. Now, the value data types that the Data Jedi plugin as the element for being able to manipulate data and communicate data across your app for no cost, and it's all just client side, those are being used or are focused towards API connector data or data coming out of plugins. So you have to select the data type and the value source. In this one, it is a source of API, and it's called Data Center Trigger. Inside of the API connector, I have this here. It's called My Data Structures. I've got this one right there, Data Center Trigger. All you need to do is just go in and set up your very simplistic type of JSON structure here. What are the three main values you need for the most basic implementation of this? And again, use creativity. Get some more ideas of more values that you could pass through to do more things. But in the most basic functionality, this is all you need. You need to know the data type name, you need to know the thing ID, and you need to know the CRUD mode. Create, read, update, delete. So once you have put that into your app, and be sure that you use these sort of lowercase types of setups with the snake case for names and such, it's important. It is something that needs to be done in order to work well with how Bubble operates. underneath the hood, as well as just making things more in line with what are generally best practices. So here we've got that CRUD mode, okay? So this is CRUD mode as an option set: create, read, update, delete. I've added in some extra values here just to be able to make it a little bit more fun for this, to show the background color and the heading, because within the overall setup, we are doing some things inside of this data center that requires conditionals to be known based around whether or not they are a particular type of value. So just coming back in here and demonstrating this again, when I want to manually enter my API response here and I say yes, I'm going to do CRUD mode and I'm putting it to my option CRUD mode. I'm not leaving it as text. That way I get to make use of my option set and all of its attributes at the same time, which is that one single field coming through with this global communicator. All right, so what are we doing now? Now that we have that set up, we can take a look at what is the workflow here. So the Data Jedi has been designed to basically make data processing super easy to understand when things are happening or when they're done. And so within that, you can see in the Data Jedi, there's a lot of events for when things are done, okay? So that really helps with being able to be very flexible and making use of this throughout your app, because what I've done is I've just used a data trigger event that the convert is complete. So now I know anytime and from anywhere within the application that any action that's going to be interacting with this particular Data Jedi element is going to come through with the appropriate type of data structure, being those three pieces of information, one of which is that actual option of CRUD mode. So once that happens, all right, it doesn't matter from where in the app it's coming from, it doesn't matter what kind of CRUD mode or values are associated within it, as long as that conversion gets completed successfully, this is going to trigger. I now have my first action. This is coming out of the Data Jedi plugin. The Jedi plugin allows you to basically make use of actions to directly communicate within your Bubble database in your normal Bubble database structuring. You do need to use your API keys and such for that. So inside of this is my first one. I'm doing the bulk. You can see right here the condition, only when CRUD mode is create. So what am I passing through into this? Well, one, the domain, all right? That's just a website home URL, very simple, thank you Bubble, built in there. Data type name, this is your Data Jedi value list that is one of the exposed states. First items, because as we are passing this in, we're only sending in one object at a time. But the value list smartly is for a list, because at times we might be actually doing things with hundreds, possibly even thousands of objects here. So within the structure of data center, you're only sending one object, which is basically a declaration. It's an instruction. It says, hey, this is the data type name. This is the CRUD operation to perform on it, and if it's needed, this is the thing ID. In bulk create, we do not need any kind of thing IDs. We are creating those at that time. So we're just passing in a JSON, which is the extra value. Now this Data Jedi's extra value on the data center one, data trigger, we have the extra value set to text. Now, coming off of a very simplistic page here to demonstrate this, I have an actual Data Jedi plugin element on the page for product. Now, this is being used because the Data Jedi element does have an exposed state, which is your Bubble API ready JSON. It is in the right format for Bubble's API to accept that JSON for bulk create, which allows you to create data in your Bubble database using your normal Bubble custom data types at a fraction of the rate at what you could get if you were to do schedule on a list or recursive workflows. It is just basically the bulk create operation from the API. Now, in this one, right here, my create, What am I doing? One very simple, Data Jedi convert. I'm converting it to the data center. I have my setup here, data type name and CRUD mode. I don't need the ID of the thing because there's no ID. So when I don't pass in that field value here, everything works just fine. It just means that my object that is representing this here inside of the reusable element is just not going to have an ID. That's all. What I'm then passing in as my extra value is my Data Jedi product creation API ready JSON's value. Now, 100% guys, this plugin, it does need to have some features rounded out in such a way that as I'm making videos and things like this and using it more and more in products that I'm building out, I'm seeing little simplistic ideas that could improve it. And one of those things for me would be an improvement to be able to pass this Bubble API ready JSON in some other kind of format, or otherwise maybe have it without a need for this extra element that is on the page. Even though the extra element doesn't really eat into performance or anything else, it's just simply creating these client-side things. It's coming off of this multi-line input. This, by the way, is 100 different items as a product JSON that I asked ChatGPT to create for me, which it did within a matter of around 3 seconds. I was able to just copy that out and put it into this multi-line input as the initial content. So what's going on here right now in terms of the create? Well, inside of my database, I have products. Normal, custom, data type product. Names of the fields exactly the same as they are within this area of my API connector for my data structures, product. It's the same thing. Now, this really is just for the point of being able to create that Bubble API ready JSON. That is where I alluded to just moments ago, that I'm finding areas that I can improve things. So maybe in a near-term future, there would be a slightly different way of being able to communicate the actual JSON needed for the bulk create action that's going to be taking place within the workflows from the reusable element here. That could be happening. But for now, Data Jedi still does it just as easily. You just need this one extra element there to be able to get that value. So when we are inside of the reusable element, our next step is our Data Jedi modify thing. And what are we doing here? Website home URL, data type name coming off of that value list. First items, data type name. Thing ID, same ID. We're getting that thing ID. Our JSON, this is this Data Jedi's extra value. Because when we are working with the Data Jedi, not only do we get to send in our value data type JSON to be able to create one or many objects, we're also able to send in an extra value. It could be number, could be text, could be maybe something I expand on later in the future to make it more robust. I don't know. But for now, it's text or number. And in this situation, when I'm sending back the extra value as text, that extra value comes through here in the form of an exposed value, right? So I can get that extra value. That is my JSON that I need in order to properly modify this thing. So where is that coming from? Well, on this simplistic page here, I've got this edit button inside of my repeating group that is going to be a list of things that are those that are within my newly created objects within Bubble's database, my custom data type products, right? So what is this edit button doing? This edit button is just simply doing a Data Jedi convert within the format that it needs to be to communicate with the global data center. And that is the type of name, it's the thing ID, current sales unique ID, and the CRUD mode update. Now, obviously, all of these things could be done slightly differently. I could do even more modularization around my product type names, my CRUD mode, I can be referencing to the option set and things like that. This is just simplistic, first basic ideas of how do you do something like this. I think it's new for everybody. Extra value, or it's not maybe new for everybody, but at least it's probably going to be new for a lot of the more non-technical or those who had not discovered it on their own maybe prior. But either way, this is a new plugin, right? So the way in which you do it within the Data Jedi is kind of new for everybody other than me because I created the plugin. So here, this is how you work with this plugin for it. I've passed in those values that are necessary to communicate the information about, well, like, which actions are we performing right now? So that's done. The extra value is where I'm actually giving it the values to use in order to modify my thing within my bubble database. So product, I've got name, description, price. If I want to, within this workflow, obviously these could be dynamic through dynamic expressions. I could also expand upon it and change the other values in there, such as the price and the description and such. But again, simplistic ideas here just to demonstrate. Now, we also have in here the delete button. And what is that? Well, you know, not surprisingly, doing something very, very similar. We are running a Data Jedi convert action. We are passing in the value types. We are giving it the product name, the unique ID, and the delete CRUD mode. There is no extra value because there's nothing that it needs to know about extra values because it has everything it needs there. So what's happening in this global data center that is our reusable element? Well, the third step here after the second one, which is conditionally based off of CRUD mode being update, the third one is delete. Again, website home URL, we're getting our data type name, we're taking in the thing ID, and we're looking at the CRUD mode, is it delete? So either you're going to do step 1 or 2 or 3. Never going to do 1, 2, and 3 together because your Data Jedi element will never have a CRUD mode other than just one, being delete, create, or modify. So what am I doing after that? I'm just doing a little bit more trickery here to be able to demonstrate how much you can do to be able to make use of Data Jedi for this kind of global data center for the creation of data in your normal bubble database structure. So what I did is I asked ChatGPT, hey, just give me a very simplistic JSON. I have a list of IDs. I need to pass them through as a list of text. I want each and every single one of them itemized. I want to know how many there were. So when you're working with the Bubble API bulk update, if you don't initialize that properly in your own application, then you're not going to get the responses. Now, Data Jedi has been initialized properly, so when you run the bulk update action here, we do get the response. It's the body response. The body response in Bubble comes back in such a way that you actually have, let's just say, because this example will do so, we're going to have 100 items created. What's going to come back from that response is just one body. It's a very simple single string. What is inside of it is there are the status, the success, the ID, and then the actual ID, each for every single 100 items that had been created. So, makes it kind of difficult to work with. You need to extract it out and you need to get to the proper values that you want, which in this case is very simply just the IDs of the things. And so what I've done is I've used extract with regix pattern. It is inside of here as regix patterns. It is extract IDs from API call, and that's going to help us to get all those IDs out of the body response from the bulk create API call. Or if you're doing things with Data Jedi, just within the Data Jedi bulk create action. Makes it very simple to use. Don't need to set up anything inside of your own app for it. But inside of your own app, you do need to make sure that within your API settings section, you are exposing the different data types that you would be working with. So product in this example needs to be checked. Otherwise, it will not work. So the other thing too that you would be smart to do, security measures using API tokens and things like that to basically make sure that people aren't getting access when they shouldn't be. So here, as we come through on this global data center, we have this convert action. It is extracting from the result, the body, the regix pattern of IDs and formatting it as text in this way, double quotes this text. The eliminator is a comma to separate them out. So what's going to happen is that on this page, as a simplistic example here, my Data Jedi return values is going to show up with 100 objects that are going to just basically be a list of IDs that I could go and do other things with, like perhaps maybe adding it onto a field, onto another related data type to be able to do a one-to-many relationship there for it. And the other benefit here too is you get to avoid race conditions when you're trying to update lots of different items in a list and adding that list back onto a single field somewhere. So we do that in our step 4. The fifth one here is just a little fun, just to kind of demonstrate, CRUD mode, option sets, hybrid approach, Data Jedi, normal database, API connector, objects, all of them working together in a very nice synergistic way. What I'm doing here is I'm just showcasing I got different colors for my backgrounds, I got different headings to demonstrate the alert, all off of just this one series of actions right here. This will properly control every single data type inside of my custom data type so long as I do it properly. And so coming back into the workflow, last final one, using the Data Jedi element actions, or rather client-side actions of clearing all values. It clears your extra value, it clears your value for your value list and other things. In terms of all of these different types of actions, we have clear all values, clear errors, extra value, convert. All of these things very often are coming off with an optional checkbox to trigger the related events. This makes it extraordinarily flexible in the way in which you can utilize these elements over and over again in different processes and have different results taking place. So just as a very quick kind of demonstration here of this, we've got our product list is empty. I'm just going to go ahead and refresh this page right now. I do have it coming from this page as the data center example. This this multi-line already has these 100 items in there. I'm just going to press the create button and then we're going to see this go through. Boom. I got all my IDs returned to me here just for the fun of showing that, but in reality they are also just sitting right here in my Data Jedi return values. Look at this. IDs. Whoa, there's 100 list of text in there, all IDs of items that I just created. So what else is going on in here? Let's just go look at our database. Boom, 100 items is in there inside of that product. That is incredible. Now let's go ahead and delete that one. So that's deleted and we got that notification. This right here will be going away because I didn't put the condition onto it. Look at that, 99 items. Let's go ahead and edit this. It's going to call new name now. Boom. So that's how you get a global data center, one single reusable element that will do your complete CRUD operations on all of your data. Now, I did not go into the read part of CRUD operations in terms of this data center. Data Jedi was originally created by me based off of a sense that we needed for workload unit to reduce our cost of searching. That cost of searching can add up significantly for certain types of data and certain types of apps. So it is not something that every single bubble app or every single data type needs to be converted into. There are specific use cases where it really shines easily. There are other specific use cases where we need to be a little bit more creative in our implementation of it. There are some use cases where you would just flat out say, it's not useful, so you don't use it. But if you're wanting to create a global data center for your read, for your fetch, for your search of data, to display it to people, one of the things that I am doing in my apps, I am using the property. The property allows you to put a dynamic value. That dynamic value can be any one of your custom data types that you would be creating within your API connector or are coming out of an actual API, a plugin. So let's just take a look here. I've got product there, it's fine, that's on my mind. So what am I looking at here? What I'm saying now is I can create this. I can say, let's do a dynamic value. I want to take the product that is actually in my plugin types. I'm going to go ahead and say product list. And my default value could be coming off of a Data Jedi element that will be set up onto this reusable element here. And that value would be its list. Now that property on this reusable element would be exposed. You can pass it down from one reusable element to another, or pass it down from a reusable element into a page. It doesn't matter. So long as that reusable element is somewhere on your editor, within your setup, you'll be able to pass it down. The other thing too, if you're creating another reusable element that's going to need to be able to access those values and the field names, all you do is just add your property and set it up to be the type of data that you need it to be, and then those are going to be available to you when you're building out a new reusable element that needs access to that data. You can pass it down. It doesn't cost anything either because they are API connector objects. They're client-side objects, so you're not getting hit with the way Bubble charges you when you pass an actual Bubble data type thing into another area of your app. So that is one way to basically have the data center not just be for your create, update, and delete actions, but also for your